What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on the news that they just dropped today, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So Lucid is up 2.4%, 10.09 the high, 9.45 the low, and we're seeing just over about 10 million shares being traded within the first 30 minutes of the trading day. So even Lucid was top 10 most heavily traded during the pre-market, so it was getting a lot of good volume. During the pre-market, it did also have a spike to roughly around 10.48. That works out to be 13.4% in the green. Unfortunately, we are starting to see a lot of volatility and a little bit of consolidation in Lucid's case, and I'm going to break it down. So there's a lot of things to go over, so as per usual, I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly, no BS, and kind of explain why Lucid is going down right now, because I'm sure a lot of people are very confused by all of that. Starting off with macro data, we did have two things. PPI came in at 0.5, forecast of 1.3. ADP came in at 39,000. That's a weekly. Previous was 26. So definitely good stuff. Market didn't really care so much about this, only because the market's focusing on negotiations between the States and Iran, and there has been a lot of good updates. So the market seems to be very hyped up. And as per usual, as I've mentioned in the past, all you have to do is look at the price of oil. This does really show whether the market is truly optimistic or not. And at the time of doing this video, oil is down 4.39%. So pretty good stuff. As far as Lucid news, there's been a lot of things that did come out. So again, there's going to be a lot of bulls, a lot of bears, just trying to spin the narrative. I'm not here to BS you whatsoever, and nor have I ever. So I'm going to, again, go over the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we did have a interim CEO, Mark. I believe he kind of stepped in February 2025. That's been one big issue for a lot of investors, is the fact that there hasn't been a proper CEO. But we actually did get that news today. So Lucid names global industrial leader 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧 as the next CEO. And so a couple of things to be aware of. So based on this, Mark is stepping down to his previous role of COO. Doesn't actually state a date in here when this transition is going to be occurring, so it is fair to assume that it's going to be immediate. Based on the kind of wording here, it looks like 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧, he's still kind of all about just efficiency and heading towards profitability. So again, he's kind of resuming Lucid's mentality for that. This is what he is all about, though. So he was the CEO of Schindler Group, and I kind of looked it up. Year to date, that stock is up about 3%. So definitely doing a lot better than Lucid. So he holds an MBA from Harvard and earned a whatever scholarship. So good stuff. I think we just have to kind of wait and see. But I've been covering Lucid for quite some time, and I know when Lucid's excited about something versus when they're not. And there was a interview that was already posted, which I'm going to play later in this video. And the fact that Lucid already did a interview, it goes to show that they're excited about this news. So again, we just have to kind of wait and see on whether there's going to be some big changes or whatever else. But having a permanent CEO, I think, is pretty epic if you ask me. When it comes down to the other PRs that did come out, there was three things. You don't really need to pay attention to this one because this kind of covers them all. But Lucid Group announces registered public offering of common stock. Total raise about 1.05 billion. This is going to be an unpopular comment that I'm going to make, only because I know a lot of bulls don't want to hear negative stuff. So again, maybe plug your ears for this part if you are one of those individuals. But Lucid tends to do this a lot. They like to put out flashy news, good news, mind you, but then they mask it with negative news. They did that with Uber. They announced the Uber partnership, which again is epic, but then they kind of slid it under there, like, hey, just on a FYI, we're doing a reverse stock split as well. Surprise. This is the same type of crap. So this is why Lucid is going down right now. So the breakdown is that it's 300 million through direct offering, and that's going to be most likely done through that S3 that is still kind of outstanding. And this is, on a side note, very odd, because technically, for those of you that tune into a lot of my kind of live streams when I go over earnings, I did state that Lucid was going to need money in Q2. So technically I was right. I didn't think that they were actually going to dilute, though, because they have access to about 2.5 billion through a line of credit through the PIF that's cheap. And so again, I thought they were going to hit that up, and technically every time a company would be using that, we would never know until Lucid announces and puts out their earnings. So in reality, they kind of went the opposite route. So 300 million direct offering. Uber is raising its investment to 500 million, and they are bumping up the total vehicles to 35,000. Still good. I like that. Shows Uber's kind of commitment. I think Uber and Lucid, that whole partnership is going to be epic for it and really put Lucid on the map. But definitely this is a kind of interesting type of pivot. Still not to the same magnitude as Rivian, mind you. I think Rivian got, was at 1.25 billion. But when it comes down to this is my big issue. And I've done a lot of videos about Lucid, tons and tons of videos. And one thing I've brought up, and usually it's a negative, is taking Lucid private. I think the PIF has always ingrained in Lucid these poison pill type of things. And on a lot of my other YouTube channels I do have, I actually call out stocks for kind of relying on convertible products. And just in case you guys don't know what that is, there's notes, preferred stock, and many other alternatives that companies can get money on. And ultimately, it's kind of like a loan shark. They just have to pay 10 times more through stock issuance to pay back that amount. And I've already covered this convertible stock that Lucid does have, the ratio. And yeah, technically the PIF by 2030, let's say Lucid isn't where they want, they could easily call all these preferred stock back, get massive amount of common stock, and pretty much take over Lucid. More than kind of like they'd have a massive amount of stock. So this is why I've mentioned in the past, the PIF has put themselves in a position that they're not going to lose. They have all these preferred stock that they like pretty much guarantee that if Lucid goes down, they still make money. Lucid goes higher, they still make money. It is a win-win for the PIF. So this right now, in my opinion, any form of dilution is not good. And the fact that Lucid kind of did slide it in with epic news is just really discouraging. It's really unfortunate that Lucid can't just put out news, good news, and just leave it at that, take a step back and just whatever. They always have to mask it with some sort of negative. So in my opinion, again, this might be unpopular opinion, but this definitely is the main reason why Lucid is going down. When it comes to this interview, like I said, I'm going to play this near the end of the video. Regarding shorts, they're returning about 20,000 shares. 33.9% of the free float is being shorted. Works to be 45.4 million shares overall being shorted. Looking at the options as far as right now, 911,000 in calls, 122,000 in puts. And it actually does look like Lucid is in the red right now. So definitely the market is not really liking kind of that news. Looking at this from a bull standpoint, 950 is on the table. Bears anticipating pretty much between 850 and 9. So when it comes down to this, so as far as transactions on the secondary market, you can see that institutions were calling BS. They did not like this news. Anything with a bid is a sell. So institutions were largely selling today, all the hype and whatever else. Dark pool, when it comes down to this, you see a small handful of transactions, so 1.04, 1.04, that was done at 852, and all of this, it kind of looks like this is what kickstarted the sell-off. So again, institutions not really liking that dilution news. Right now with it at 917, it is between this pivot and this S1, so 913 is going to be that key support that you really want to watch for Lucid to hold. Given the negative momentum right now, it is fair to assume that most likely that will not last. And even on the actual chart itself, I'd like to say that this is optimistic. We did momentarily break above that 50-day moving average, which generally is a very big deal for Lucid, but I think just the market doesn't like the whole masking of positive, negative news and that whole shebang that they like to do. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid and what's your kind of takeaway from everything, the dilution news, the new CEO, and kind of everything. So like I said, I'm just going to play this, so let me know your kind of thoughts on that.
Silvio Napoli, You're the Lucid CEO. That might come as a surprise to some. Non-automotive background. Probably the best place to start is therefore what your approach is going to be. You know, day one, how you see your plan for Lucid.
Yes, thank you. It is indeed a big honor, and I'm extremely excited and ready to take on the challenge. Lucid has been known to make extraordinary products. This month, Lucid was awarded the World Performance Car of the Year prize. Last year, Lucid gained the German Performance Car of the Year award. How's that?
Yeah, the Germans might have had something to say about that.
So the last thing Lucid needs today is someone coming in with a ready-made recipe, looking over the engineers, and arguably some of the ones we have are some of the best in the business.
Right.
I see it otherwise. My job is to come in and to make a sustainable business out of this incredible company. And it starts with people, to your question, Ed. It starts with people. It starts about bringing the team together, making sure that we achieve the same excellency,
right,
the same efficiency, we achieve with our products, with the company.
Can you talk a little bit about the process, who approached who? You know, if to summarize what you're talking about, 2025 was difficult for Lucid, the start of 2026 from an execution standpoint, literally production, the impact of tariffs, policy, that is something you can affect, but, you know, was this your idea or it was the board's idea to go down this path?
Well, it really has been a commonality of views, finding each other. Since leaving my previous position and exactly 1 year ago, I was in no rush to jump into anything other than something I thought was a worthwhile challenge.
Big project.
And when I was approached for this opportunity, of course, I did my due diligence, but I was immediately very excited about the prospect, and then continuing discussion, understanding what the views were from the board. I thought there was a very good match.
Due diligence, what did you find?
Again, a company with extraordinary products, with a technology leadership, with massive potential, and to realize this potential.
Challenges you feel are surmountable?
Not only surmountable, but unique also in terms of time in history for this industry, for the automotive industry, for the EV, for what it means in terms of sustainability of automotive transportation. That is unique. It's going to be a lot of hard work, to be clear. A lot of hard work, but one that happens now.
I appreciate this is day one, right? And so in some sense, you've not had a chance to go into the business and get going. But the big moment is mid-size platform. You know, will it start in Saudi Arabia? Will it start in the United States? Where did the mid-size feature in your conversations with the board, and where have you put it in your list of priorities to start?
I should say it's day one. Day one starts with all of hard work. It starts listening to people, understanding the market, and also talking to our customers. Decisions like the one you say will result in me setting priorities on what to act first.
But you haven't made that decision, clearly.
Day one on the job.
Two big pieces of news. The first, Saudi's public investment fund, already the biggest investor, basically, no, literally increasing its commitment. Why is that important, other than the capital injection? And I guess in that due diligence phase that you did before taking the role, what was your assessment of Lucid's runway and its balance sheet for you to enact the things you want to?
You mentioned due diligence, and discussing with PIF, discussing with the chairman, was an absolutely vital element of my decision making.
They were involved in your talks to become CEO of Lucid?
We have a chairman of the board who's
right.
from PIF. Of course they were. And again, equally, I was keen to understand their engagement. Today's announcement is a confirmation of their continued support, or their belief in Lucid as a company and in its future. And therefore, absolutely, their role is absolutely key. And they are a very savvy investor. And it is, for Lucid, a competitive advantage to be able to rely on that type of support in a very competitive market.
What did the PIF, the chairman, but the PIF's representatives convey to you on what their priorities are, how they see the to-do list for you at Lucid?
Yeah, these type of discussions, of course, where there was an element of strategic discussion to be now taken further, but the most important element of that was their belief, their willingness to bring on board someone like me with industrial global experience in turning around, in growth, in businesses around the world, combining industrial manufacturing and service and building a brand, we saw it the same way.
We discussed how you don't have any automotive experience, but a moment ago you mentioned customers, talking to customers and getting their input. There's a business line you're taking on, which is the sale of vehicles as robo-taxis to Uber. And Uber is increasing its order, essentially, in terms of units and doubling down its financial investment in the company. What were your early thoughts about that business line? And the question that always comes up is, why does Uber need to invest in Lucid at that level to get this transaction done?
There are many aspects to your excellent question. First of all, the Uber robotaxi neural collaboration show another massive market that goes beyond the addressable market that you have today in automotive and EV. That is one that is likely to become even bigger than the EV market today. And not many players are involved. To your second question, why is Uber interested in having their own vehicle? First of all, I look forward to discussing with them directly. Right. But this shows, again, the fact that Uber technology, they're just not looking at any automotive supplier, and in the end, it's a validation of Lucid as a technology leader.
I've been reading about you, as discreetly as possible, been asking people about you. You are about discipline, reality in your approach, cost discipline as well. You look at all these projects that Lucid has, some of them may or may not carry forward, right? At the Investor Day, a prototype of a specific robotaxi design. How much is that on your list to look at the existing plans, existing products, and say, let's just focus on the main thing?
It's very high on the priority. As a matter of fact, I believe deciding what we don't do is going to be as important, if not more, than deciding on what we do. I'm an engineer myself. I can see the excitement engineers experience when given a new challenge. And so our goal will be to channel that excitement in the projects that have the highest return for our shareholders, and then taking them one at a time.
There's always a question when you have a situation like the war in Iran about its impact on the business environment. Now, in this case, Saudi PIF are doubling down on their commitment to Lucid financially. In the region right now, there's a lot of focus on that. That's where the capital comes from, and it's where the capital's being deployed. Saudi Arabia has its own ambitions, of course, with Lucid for capacity. I suppose from the due diligence lens, again, because it's day one, what was your assessment of how Lucid's business is being impacted by the situation in the Gulf, and more broadly by macro events of the last 12 months?
We want to build a resilient business.
Right.
Resilient businesses are capable of going through crisis, at the same time finding opportunity in crisis. If you look at what's happening today, yes, it creates uncertainty. At the same time, it also creates opportunity. Look at the fuel price. With fuel prices in the US at over $4 a gallon, that makes the total cost of ownership for EV customers a lot more affordable and a lot more rational, making sense. So navigating this type of crisis by looking at both managing the crisis but seizing the opportunity is what we look at together with the team and with the board.
Silvio, when you and I speak in 1 year's time, what are the metrics by which you would have judged your own performance? What is it you're holding yourself to account on?
first of all, our customers. What will they say about the Lucid cars? And number two, of course, will be the performance of the company.
So yeah, there you go. I don't know. I feel like it was a good intro type of interview. He still did resemble a lot of what Lucid likes to, whenever asked a difficult question, they like to divert. So he definitely did kind of include some of that. But yeah, I guess we just have to kind of sit tight and wait. So let me know your general thoughts on kind of everything that's been happening. As far as the time of doing this video, now Lucid is down 4%. So market not really liking it overall. So hit that thumbs up. And with all that, appreciate all you guys watching.